Yeah, lovely. Hi everyone over there. Okay, so just a little bit about myself first. Nice to see my face really big on the screen. So my name's Brenda Hales and I've been an educator for over 25 years now. Most recently working as, and this is a bit of a mouthful, a Canva specialist education content creator. I'm also a proud Canvassador. I also am a curriculum illustrator and author for the HEP Science curriculum, which I absolutely love. I have over the years been head of science, leadership, coach and mentor, as well as vice principal. So I've done lots and lots of things, but my focus has always been on making sure that learning is accessible and engaging for all learners. Okay, so I always like to start with the why, and I think it's really important that we remember why we're using all of these tools in the first place, and we want to make sure that no learner is left behind, regardless of their starting points. And that's something that I firmly believe in, and I'm sure that you do too. So let's be mindful of that throughout this session. Okay, so we're going to look at adaptive learning and what it means. Key whiteboard features and some practical examples, and then finally how you might use some of these strategies in your own setting. I'm a pacer, so you will just have to keep on following me about as I move. Okay, so there are lots of different definitions of what adaptive learning is, but let's agree on a basic definition of it. And adaptive learning tailors teaching to meet every learner's unique needs. And it's not to be confused with differentiation. So if I was going to have a dinner party, differentiation would be where I would make different meals for the different guests that are going to be attending my dinner. So I might make some spicy foods and some foods that are not spicy at all. But adaptive learning would be where everybody has the same meal, but they are given seasonings and spices so that they can change the meal to suit their needs. So it's all about empowering the learners and empowering teachers with a variety of different strategies. So if we want to be dynamic and if we want to be responsive, then we need to have a platform that is also dynamic and responsive. So that's where Canva Whiteboards come in. And I'm going to hopefully convince you over the next 10 minutes or so of all the different features that Canva Whiteboards have and why I think they are the best platform for delivering adaptive learning. Okay, so there are a few things I want to just pull out about Canva Whiteboards. So first of all, they are a live collaborative space and a very responsive space. So if a pupil has a specific need, a teacher can see that in real time and they can respond in real time as well. You've got an infinite scrolling canvas. I mean, this is a really long screen, but it's nothing compared to the space that you've got for Canva Whiteboards. You've also got lots of interactive tools and also access to apps that you can use right inside your whiteboard. So I'm going to talk about some of the tools a bit later on, but you've got things like the draw tool, so you can annotate. You've got things like digital stickies and reactive stickers. So we'll come back to all of that. And one of the strengths, I think, of the interactive whiteboards as well is that they're very flexible. You can share them with individual learners, groups of learners, or a whole class. Okay. Go past that. So for those of you who've not used whiteboards before, and I'm going to have to race to this, from the home page you click on Create a Design, type in whiteboard, it's going so quickly, and you get to the infinite scrolling canvas I was talking about. You can add elements from the element library, and some of them you can change the colours, you can change the sizes. You can use the digital sticky notes, and you can arrange them, map them out on the whiteboard as you need. You can use the draw tool, particularly if children have tablets, they can draw and they can write using these tools. And if you're like me and you're a bit dodgy, if you hold the pen down on the screen, it will smooth out your shape. You can of course add text, and you can edit the text. This is where I slowed down on the bit that I don't need to slow down on. And of course there is an extensive library of templates you can use on the whiteboards as well. And you can edit those. There are education templates as well, which are particularly useful for the classroom. And you can edit those. You can change the font, and of course you can change the colours, add shapes, remove bits. This is where I'll slow down again. And you can add more than one template. You can add as many templates as you want to, because you've got that infinite scrolling canvas. So you can do that, or you could start from scratch and make your own lesson, building it block by block. So I've just made an example here of a lesson, and I can walk you through this lesson and show you some of the different features and strategies that you can use with the Canva whiteboards. So this is a lesson on the water cycle that I have done with a class before. And I'll show you each of the parts chopped up and how we can use different features in Canva. So first of all, let's start with brainstorming, but not brainstorming as you know it. When we think of brainstorming, we tend to think of that mind map graphic organizer, but that's just the first part of brainstorming. If your lessons are responsive and adaptive, once your children have brainstormed, you have got a collection of ideas, so they can just go to the Canva library, copy or click and drag images into those frames. But you've just got a mass of lots of different ideas. A good brainstorm will have three parts to it: collect the ideas, organize those ideas, and then turn those ideas into some sort of action. So depending on the class that you've got, depending on their needs, you can do as many of those steps or as few of those steps as you need to within the lesson. You'll notice that on the left side here, there is a dedicated area for EAL learners. In this instance, I've just translated the word water into some of the different home languages, but you could take all of the different keywords from the lesson and translate them. And what's great about the interactive whiteboard is that as you go along the lesson, if children are struggling to access, you can quickly use Magic Write, and I'm sorry I don't have time to go into how Magic Write works now, but you can quickly use Magic Write to translate words for all of your learners as well. I like to call these dynamic sorting walls. So let's say you've got all of these ideas in from the children. What you should do then, or what you might be able to do then, is to take those ideas and to organise them, to sort them into different categories. Now, I've done this on the fly, so my headings aren't as great as they could be, but just to show you, you take the ideas and you can sort them and process them. And what's great about that is as you sort through those ideas, children get a deeper understanding of the content. They start to see patterns, they start to see relationships, and they start to make connections between the different keywords that they wouldn't have seen if you didn't have something which is so visual. And we know that for EAL and SEND students, having these visuals is massively important. So I call this part the kind of preparing to learn part of the lesson, because we're going to move on now to the main activity, which is where the teacher is sharing a concept. Now, if we started the lesson by saying to children, what do you know about the water cycle, they would likely say nothing. But because we've done those previous activities where they've taken their ideas and where they've processed them, they now know lots about the water cycle. They know that it's not just about water inside a glass, it's not just about drinking water. They know it's about puddles and oceans and evaporation and mould in the corner of the bathroom. So they know that water moves around in the world around us. So I think it's David Orsabel, I'm probably butchering his surname, who said one of the best ways to learn something new is to link it to what children already know. So it's really useful for looking at prior knowledge and making that bridge and that connection to the content that you're about to teach the children. So this part, I realise I've been standing in front of the words, this part is about using multimedia, or what we call multimodal learning. And this uses audio and visuals and different words to communicate points, whether it's a lesson or whether it's a workshop. So all they're doing here is learning about the water cycle section by section. And I don't know if any of you are into cognitive science, but part of multimodal learning is dual coding. I'm from South London, so I hope you understood what I said there. Dual coding is about using words and visuals to build a picture and to teach a concept. So bit by bit, we can introduce them to the different stages of the water cycle, and it is really multi-sensory learning. They engage different senses in the learning process. And it's not about multiple learning styles, it's about choosing the right type of media for whatever it is that you are teaching. So some children will be able to understand the water cycle based on the video clips. Some children will be able to understand based on the text, and some children will be able to understand based on what the teacher is saying. Of course, you don't have to leave the whiteboards. You can go straight to the Canva element library and find video clips, audio clips, and images, shapes, lines, arrows, whatever it is that you need to build the concept step by step. I know that Jonathan mentioned earlier, there's some crossover, isn't there? He mentioned the interactive quizzes. Has anybody used the quizzes yet? So a few of you, a few Canva people. So it's a new feature and it's brilliant, really simple to use. Again, I don't have time to go into it now, but what it means is that obviously after you've taught a bit of information or taught a concept, we want to know, do the children understand what we've taught them? And you can very quickly pull in your quizzes into the whiteboard. You can put them in at any stage. So I also tutor a young man, and as I'm teaching him, if I see that he's a little bit confused, I'll do a little bit more input, and then I'll quickly put a quiz on for him onto the whiteboard. And it means that I can see his answers straight away in real time, and I can respond to them straight away in real time. And what's great about having the whiteboard, I call it like a bit of a tapestry. You've got all of the learning laid out. So if there is an area that a child is struggling with, they can still look back at everything that's happened in the earlier parts of the lesson. It's not on a different PowerPoint slide, it's not on a different page, it's all in front of them, like a learning buffet. I'm into my phrases. So I really love the quiz feature in the whiteboards. And also, I think in terms of science, more so than other subject areas, we have a lot of misconceptions that can arise. So it's really important to tackle those misconceptions as well. And you can decide who is ready to move on to the next step and who needs to go back and do further review. Okay, so children can work collaboratively, they can work individually as a whole class, and there's so much flexibility built in. So here, I think one of the criticisms that we have of e-learning, I remember from back in the day, and EdTech, is that, okay, that's all very fancy, but what about for our higher retainers? What about for children who just want to write? Well, you can use a simple text box to do that. So here, for example, children are just adding labels and descriptions. And what we want with adaptive learning, not like differentiation, we want all children to meet the challenges, but we might have to scaffold the learning a little bit depending on the needs of the learners. So you might add in the key words again, you might add in some sentence starters, but you want to make sure that all children can meet the challenges that you set in the classroom. So there's so much flexibility and responsiveness built in.